Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world or whatever time it is. I thought I would drop by and say hello from where I'm back in Chicago, my home, after a fruitful 2 weeks in Philly. Now, if you told me a few months ago, even just a few weeks ago, I'd be standing in front of PhDs delivering a lecture at Temple University, I probably would have laughed and asked you, what alternate timeline are we living in? But fast forward to now, and here we are. Let's break it down. I'm very excited to share what I did the past couple of weeks, driving my AI biotech project solving global hunger. How I went from refining theoretical models to meeting leading geneticists, running real genome analyses, and getting some serious institutional backing, all towards achieving my vision of selfless service, what I call SEVA at scale. So let's get into it. I'll keep this short, however long your coffee break is. Looking back, these past 2 weeks have been some of the most fruitful in my research journey, diving deep into computational biology, engaging with top geneticists, and refining real world applications for AI driven gene editing. Let's start with one of the biggest moments. I delivered a lecture at Temple University's bioinformatics studio, speaking to PhD researchers and faculty on AI powered genomics and gene editing in agriculture. Honestly, walking into that room, I thought, I'm a high school graduate talking science to people who've spent decades in this field. Either this is going to be a disaster or it's going to be the most interesting lecture they've had all week. No pressure. But here's what I've learned. When you work on something real, people listen. The fact that I could hold my own in that discussion proves that building in public is the fastest way to learn and get taken seriously in this space. The best part, the research I presented is not just theoretical. I'm actively validating these gene editing strategies with data. More on that on a second. Now, reverse engineering how I got here. So how did I get to this point? Hands-on research at Temple University's Kulathinal lab. The past 2 weeks, I've been knee-deep in genomics, running bioinformatics analyses on cassava genome datasets. The goal? Pinpointing CRISPR targets that will make cassava resistant to viral infections, specifically caspomosic disease or CMD for short. And here's where things get interesting. While working with Dr. Kulathinal, former Harvard postdoc and now a professor at Temple, I gained critical insights into refining genome-wide association studies or GWAS for CMD resistance. This guy knows his stuff. And let's just say I had my fair share of I need to go home and Google this moments. Key takeaway, AI driven genomics is a game changer, but credibility matters. This is why I'm integrating scientific validation into GeneGuard.ai, ensuring our AI models aren't just optimized but trusted by experts. Meeting UPenn's leading geneticists. Before all this, I had a high stakes meeting with Dr. Tapan Ganguly and Dr. Arupa Ganguly at their residence. They're leading genomics and DNA sequencing research at UPenn's Perelman School of Medicine, focusing on genetic diagnostics and next generation sequencing. Now, Philly is known for its cheesesteaks, but this meeting, this was a real high stakes, pun intended. Imagine walking into a room with geneticists who have spent decades in academia, knowing they'll immediately see through any gaps in your knowledge. No pressure, right? One of my biggest takeaways, credibility matters. As I move towards institutional backing, scientific rigor isn't just an asset, it's a necessity. Dr. Arupa Ganguly didn't hold back. She pushed me on my methodology, how I validated my resistance loci, and most importantly, how I prove causation, not just correlation. This is exactly the kind of pushback that makes research stronger. The key takeaway, if this project is going to scale, it needs scientific backing at the highest levels. Thankfully, Dr. Ganguly agreed to be my mentor and stay in touch monthly, where I send her monthly updates, ensuring my research holds up not just in a startup context, but in academic and institutional circles too. So after this, what's next? John Spence, one of my mentors, always says, it's more fun to be a pirate than in the Navy. And that's exactly the approach I'm taking. While academia plays a vital role, research alone won't solve this problem at scale. We need to move fast, break barriers, and build real world solutions. That's why I'm choosing the startup driven route, or route as my American friends like to call it, over research grants. While institutional support is key, commercial execution is what will ensure this innovation actually reaches farmers, the people at the center of the problem. If we want real world impact, we can't just write papers. We need farmers actually planting these disease resistant crops. Epigenetic Symposium takeaways. Another highlight from this trip, attending Temple's Fox Chase Cancer Center's Epigenetics Institute Symposium at the Franklin Institute. Initially, I thought, what has human epigenetics got to do with my work in agriculture? But at the end, it was obvious. Gene regulation applies to pretty much everything. Key insights: Dr. Anne Brunette of Stanford University said, regulating genes can extend lifespan. Same principle applies to crops, making them more resilient. Dr. Chris Vacock of Cold Spring Harbor said, precision gene targeting can shut down cancer survival pathways. Imagine applying this to plant disease resistance. Dr. Bob Kingston of Harvard and Mass General said, 3D genome organization matters, how genes interact, not just where they exist. This could redefine how we optimize plant traits. After this, I started exploring beyond CRISPR editing, looking into gene regulation strategies for cassava and whitefly resistance. Because if we can modify gene expression without even needing full edits, that changes everything. Now that I've gained the scientific credibility, here's what's next. Self-learn computational biology by April end. Strengthen my knowledge in this topic to further refine the bioinformatics and AI-driven approach I developed at Temple, aligning with Dr. Kulathinal, Dr. Wattle, and Dr. Ganguly's advice for future research partnerships. Building scientific credibility for funding by March end. Incorporate insights from Temple and UPenn faculty to finalize scientific validation and position the project for institutional backing. Approaching investors and funders. Begin actively engaging with VCs, grant providers, and industry partners to accelerate commercialization over the course of this month. Moving a step beyond theory into startup execution. In sum, Philly was a whirlwind, but it proved something. This project is moving from theory to execution. I came in with hypotheses. Now I'm walking away with hard data, academic validation, and expert partnerships. This is how SEVA at scale happens. Not just through ideas, but by relentlessly iterating in the real world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.